Welcome back to Studio B. This is your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I am Spencer Linton, teamed up with Dave McCann. Let's talk BYU quarterback, shall we? It seems to be a topic most of you are interested in. Yeah. And do so with a former BYU quarterback that led BYU to a 10-win season. Riley Nelson is back on the show. Riley, how are you this fine morning as we push toward Big 12 Media Days?
If I'm being honest, boys, I am wiped. And maybe it's just because, the 4th is one of my favorite holidays, and I go hard, and then they combine that with the sun and the heat and all that stuff. But here I am. I grabbed my lunch, got up at the alarm this morning, grabbed my lunch pail, and came into work with you guys. So good. I'm happy about that, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm a little bit I'm dragging a little bit today.
Fair enough. Hey, we don't judge. We understand it. Yeah. Listen, I put on this shirt to try and bring some energy into my life this morning, Riley, okay? Just to continue on with the holidays. So with that said, as we flip the page to Big 12 Media Days, everybody's going to look at BYU and Kalani Sitake and want to know, hey, what's going on with the quarterback room with the expected transfer of Jake Retzloff and now 3 largely unproven guys? Where do you feel like BYU is? He'll be asked that. We're going to ask you the same question right now. Where do you see the status of the quarterback room with so many question marks around it right now?
It's where I say a lot of programs, it seems less and less these days, because if you lose an entrenched starter, normally you go out to the portal and try and get a guy that seems to be the heir apparent. And we did that with Slovis, right? And I think Bohannon wasn't brought in to be the heir apparent, but rather to compete with Jake. But I mean, let's be honest, this is somewhat familiar territory for BYU post Zach Wilson and Jaren Hall. We're going into fall camp with the QB competition, trying to find the guy that's best to lead this offense. And I think each of the guys, one of the things that's most interesting about this to me is each of the guys possess very unique skill sets. They're each going to come with their trade-offs. Their strengths and their weaknesses don't seem to align. And so it will be interesting to see over the course of this competition whose strength and weakness or pro-con profile fits best to lead this offense with the tools and system they have in place going into the 25 season.
Riley, let me weave my way through that answer. Let's say the game is tonight. Who's your starting quarterback tonight? And then who's your starting quarterback on August 30th? Let's say if it's a different guy. How do you see that?
It's so hard for me to say, Dave, because and listen, as this offseason has played out, I'll admit I didn't put on the tape, and I don't have access to all 22 and stuff, but there's enough out there on social media these days that I finally went back. I rewatched McKay, of course, as everybody knows, family's still up in Logan. Whenever the Cougs aren't in town, I'm up watching the Aggies, so I got to see McKay's start of his college career up in Logan at Utah State and be there live for some of his games. I put myself to watching some tape of Trace, and of course, everything that we're looking at with Bachmeier is either practice tape at Stanford or high school tape, so that's kind of tough to evaluate there. As I look at it, to me, undoubtedly, McKay spins the ball the best, is the most accurate, is the best pure passer, but he couldn't stay healthy at Utah State. And that, to me, the defenders are only that much bigger, that much faster, and willing to inflict that much more punishment at this P5 level of football. The other thing is, McKay, I love watching his film because he's a lot like me. He's a little bit of a risk-reward guy. He's not scared to throw it into tight windows. He's not scared to extend plays and try and, make that big play. That doesn't seem to align necessarily with the way Roderick has coached up his QBs, right? As we think, I mentioned the kind of Wilson-Hall era. Zach was able to take some shots against that schedule that ended up playing out during COVID. So we all remember a bunch of down the field plays to Dax and the rest of them. But if you think, I really think Jaren Hall was the quintessential Aaron Roderick quarterback. And if you think about his play, it was great decision making, tons of composure, checking the ball down, live to play another day, don't put the ball at risk in possession. So when you do that, and then you look at Trayson is he's got the size, and he's got the combo as far as run-pass ability. He brings that, which both Zach and Jaren did, to the offense. But when I watch some of his game film, I know I look at it, and he struggles with accuracy in the short to intermediate passing game, and some of his deep balls die. Now, I know that's a while ago, and I'm going to definitely allow a kid, especially who was early on in his college career, to take strides in his development. And then Bachmeier, I think, at least high school, coming out of high school, had the highest star rating. I bet if you were to do the walk off the bus test, he would probably be the one that just blind and you're picking a kid off physique and build and all that. Nod probably goes to Bachmeier there. So there's kind of my scouting report on each of the three, not being able to have the luxury of getting to see them through spring ball, through summer workouts, and then fall camp. It'll be interesting to see who wins. But to go back to the question, Dave, game starts tomorrow. I'm probably trotting McKay out there simply because I love the way that he can spin it. He's got experience that hopefully he can build off of to know how to accurately place that risk-reward type of play that he has. And then also having started some games, and I know Bourget has too, but also having started some games at the Division I level, he'll be able to best absorb and orchestrate Coach Roderick's offense heading into the season.
Riley Nelson, former BYU quarterback, is with us on BYU Sports Nation. Riley, you have a very unique perspective on what it is like to be in a quarterback battle at BYU because you did it on multiple occasions, and to your credit, you won those quarterback battles. This one, however, has been condensed, and it's not a situation that BYU wanted to be in, but yet here they are having to make somewhat of an expedited decision before August 30th. So knowing what you know about the quarterback battles and then assessing BYU's situation because of things largely out of their control, how does it make this one different and more challenging?
So knowing I just gave my scouting report on each of the individual players. Now I'll give you my scouting report on what I've observed from the staff, which, by the way, the staff has largely stayed together for the last, which is one of the biggest strengths, that no matter who the quarterback is, they've got a staff that's putting together a game plan that has been through wars together, right? With the large majority of this staff having been together for the better part of the last decade. So that is an extreme luxury for the quarterback to be, not to mention all of the returning pieces that you have coming back. And you've got a proven commodity at running back in Martin. You've got a proven go-to receiver in Roberts. You've got a lot of returning talent and returning snaps on that offensive line. So whoever it is going to be that. But let me go back to the question of the staff. I think with condensed and knowing what I know of the philosophical approach, despite their ability to be creative and to draw up some very entertaining and good plays, a core tenet for this offensive staff is limit downside. Don't give the ball up. Eliminate negative plays. That comes in the form of procedural pre-snap, penalties post-snap, and turnovers, obviously. And the quarterback is the biggest indicator, the biggest contributor or preventer of all those three things. So my evaluation outside looking in is that this staff, given the condensed time frame, will go with the player that they believe has demonstrated the best ability to limit downside. So they're going to look at highest floor and not necessarily highest ceiling, at least for that initial decision, and then we'll see how the season plays out from there.
Riley, I wrote a piece in the Deseret News with you about this next question we want to revisit. There's not much time left for a quarterback to get ready. So how can BYU do it in the next 2 months for the opener and 3 months really until the Big 12 opener against Colorado? How do one of these guys get ready to be the man?
So I just talked about that. Yeah. So you were talking about quarterback. I was anticipating the question about the program at large, and I think you got Coach Hill, who's working with his defensive leadership to know those guys that, like, listen, until we get a guy that gets out there and gets his feet under him, the first 3 to 4 games of the season are going to be on us. And then, guys, Coach Papinga is the special teams coordinator. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then if I'm Kelly, right, if I'm Coach Papinga, I'm getting with my special teams leadership too and saying, hey, we're going to need to contribute, just like we did in the Kansas State game, just like we did in the Colorado game, just like we did in all these other games. We're going to need to contribute to these games in meaningful ways until that guy can prove himself. Now, Dave, your question was about these players. These players, the best thing that they can do is act as if the job is theirs. Now, granted, they're going to have to go out and earn it. I'm not saying act as if it's yours from an entitlement standpoint, but rather a confidence standpoint, because it's that old cliche that if you don't believe in you, then why should anyone else? So the test for each of these players is going to be, you go out there, and look, that doesn't mean you're breaking down every huddle. That doesn't mean you're leading every player run practice, but you carry yourself and you go about your business as if you are the starter, and you take that approach to the competition. And in my opinion, that will give whoever can display that amount of self-belief or self-confidence, that's going to give them the inside track of winning the job. And then secondarily to that mental mindset comes just the execution. Are you in there and making sure that you've got the entire install, committed to memory and front to back before practice even starts? Or are you out there reviewing that day's install, from position meeting to getting dressed in the locker room, right? How much work are you putting in before to give yourself building it? And that's what comes on all part of that confidence, because doing that, like memorizing the install and having the install like solid before practice even starts, is what the guy does. Like if you're the incumbent starter, if you're like, that's what Max Hall did going into being a 3-year starter. I observed my first year at BYU. He had the install done before player position meeting even started, and then position meetings was kind of more of a refresher and a polisher, and then he goes out to practice already done. So, and a lot of guys in QB competition get caught up worrying about yesterday's practice, or how the rep split went, or the balances, or whether they're working with the 1s, 2s, or 3s. You got to carry yourself as if you're already the guy. You got to do the things that the guy would do, and you got to have the self-belief that the guy would have, and that's going to give you your best chance to go out and execute and win the job.
Riley, we'll finish with this. From a win-loss expectation mindset, with BYU, with Jake Retzlaff and now without him, how much have your expectations on the Cougars' abilities in the win-loss column shifted because of what is happening now in the quarterback room?
Yeah, I had it coming out of spring ball at 9 wins, but mostly because, and that's 9 wins regular season, so not 9-3. The reason why I had that is, as awesome as they were, some of those games, like, the Oklahoma State game, there was some luck exhibited there. BYU was in some close games last year where at least 2 or 3 that I can think of off the top where the ball bounced their way. And that's hard to do. Like, to me, they weren't necessarily manufactured. Rather, there was a pretty big luck component. So I had them that maybe our luck regresses just a little bit this year at 9 wins. To me, not having Retzlaff, though, but I think in the portal in the offseason, I think we got even better on the defense last year that I thought was nasty. So long way of saying my win projection in the regular season went from 9-3 to 8-4. But if we get higher than our share of a luck component, I think we can be right there flirting with double-digit regular season wins. Again, that's how good I think this defense and special teams unit are. And again, if you get a quarterback that can come in and truly orchestrate the offense to limit downside, and trust in Roderick and Fessy and Harvey and the rest of that offensive staff to put in opportunistic plays, take advantage of shots, and to let them orchestrate it to you rather than you taking all the pressure on yourself and trying to do it yourself. Trust your pieces, trust your defense, trust your special teams. To me, my win projection only dropped 1 win, but I'm still open and hopeful for the possibility of getting double-digit regular season. That's how high I am on the state of this program.
Riley, I could not think of a more perfect guest than for the situation that BYU is in before Big 12 Media Days. Great stuff and insight as always. Good luck finding some energy the rest of the day. Hopefully we can bring it for you tomorrow when we're in Dallas.
We rally, man. The 4th of July was like those tough, like midsummer. In fact, it's a lot like what the boys are going through right now. They're kind of ending their hardest, most conditioning, right? So they probably had some big test right before the holiday that just wiped out their legs, and they probably all took giant naps and slept for 8 hours. But now they're going to rally, come back, and start building momentum, refining those skills into the season. I'm going to do the same. The 4th of July just completely wiped me out, but I'm coming out attacking this next week as we get one step closer to the season.
Would expect nothing less.
We rally for momentum. True. Riley, thanks for the time, man.